Hey everyone, welcome back to the Best Wines Online Tasting Room. I'm Kyle Meyer, and today we're going to do a little 101 with the Languedoc Roussillon. Are you ready for this? This is a pretty intense one, actually. There's some confusing stuff going on here. We're going to try and simplify it though, break it down, and maybe give you a little better grip on what you can look for these top wines from the Languedoc and Roussillon. Because this area of southern France has suddenly become very topical. You know, a little history, it was actually one of the first areas in France to be planted with vines. I mean, the Greeks were here 5th century BC, putting sticks in the ground. But, you know, what happened is over a period of time, the Languedoc, people kind of forgot about it. The sun always shines in the Languedoc. It's a beautiful place to grow grapes. And what happened is the Languedoc, as well as the Roussillon, kind of became this breadbasket appellation, this breadbasket region for all the wines of France. The table wines, just everyday house wine, whatever bottle of just red wine that was on a table in France that wasn't regionally specific generally came from the Languedoc and Roussillon for a number of years. And of course, these wines were blended with fabulous grapes from Algeria. Yeah. And this produced, just some pretty fiery but kind of heinous red wines.
What is this shit?
That were on supermarket shelves in France for a long time. But that's slowly changing. Starting in the late 80s, early 90s, the Languedoc started enjoying a little bit of a renaissance. There were some producers that were taking chances. They were actually vinifying clean wines. They weren't using Algerian grapes. They were focusing more on the classic Rhone varieties. And what happened is people started going, wow, this tastes pretty good. Where'd this come from? Languedoc? Where? Languedoc. Where's that? And yeah, so that's kind of where we're at right now as these new producers in the Languedoc are expanding people's minds about this area, producing profound, compelling wines for very little money, but at the same time, they need a press agent. So hopefully that's what we'll do a little bit today. For the Languedoc Roussillon area, we're actually going to start at the, the France does kind of this thing here, right? And then down here you got Spain. And over here you got, I don't know if it's on camera, but you got Provence and such. But this whole area right here, we'll call this area the Languedoc, coming down to here, and then we'll call this area the Roussillon. All right? Now, what we're going to do today is we're actually going to start just outside the Languedoc. There's this little area up here. Hopefully it's on camera. An area, oh, it's not, okay, thanks camera guy. A little area called Nîmes, the Costières de Nîmes, N-I-M-E-S. Nîmes is a fabulous town, an old bullfighting town. There's actually the original bullfight arenas there. It's a great place for concerts. I'm digressing. But Nîmes, though, is kind of like the stuck in-between area between the Rhone Valley, of which it's on the very southern tip of, and then this Languedoc area, of where it's on the very northeastern tip. Even though the Nîmes is technically in the Rhone Valley, I prefer to think of Nîmes as a Languedoc-style wine because Syrah works really great there. Syrah and Mourvèdre and these kind of cool, these bigger grape varieties. So if you ever see a Costières de Nîmes, even though it's technically a Rhone wine, I would kind of put it in the Languedoc camp with regards to its flavor profile. Really outstanding wines for the money. Now, as we get into the Languedoc proper, okay, basically there's one kind of catch-all groovier appellation for Languedoc wines, and that's the Languedoc AOC, the Languedoc appellation. It used to be called Coteau de Languedoc, and it's recently changed just to Languedoc to keep it simple, which I like the fact they did that. Basically, it's a all-encompassing thing, a bit like Côtes du Rhône is in the Rhone Valley, but of a higher quality level, and certain grapes do have to be involved. We're talking Grenache, we're talking Carignan, Syrah, Cinsault, Mourvèdre, all can be included in certain percentages. There's minimums and maximums of percentages with these grape varieties, and I really like the fact that I didn't say one grape variety had to be the main one because the Languedoc is a big place, and there's lots of little different nooks and crannies and soil types, which makes, maybe over here, Syrah does great. Maybe over here, Grenache does great, etc. So I like the fact that they kept it pretty open with regards to the grapes that can be used. Now, so if you see a Languedoc AOC wine, that's usually a sign of quality. It's usually a pretty darn good bottle of wine. But there's smaller areas within the Languedoc which also produce really compelling wines. And each of them kind of have their own gig. As we head due west, we get to Peak St Loup. And Peak St Loup is a hilly, mountainous region where right now they're discovering that the Syrah grape does really, really well in Peak St Loup. Almost kind of like this junior Côte Rôtie, this Côte Rôtie wine from the Northern Rhone area, one of the most famous Syrah wines in France. Peak St Loup almost kind of creates a junior version of this wine with kind of real smoky, kind of meaty, bacony flavors. Terrific Syrah-based wines with Grenache and Carignan and Mourvèdre that are sensational. Powerful, big, but bright because of the elevation. They're not heavy, they're very lifted. Heading just a little bit south from Peak St Loup, we come into the Teras D Larac. And Teras D Larac is an area that for years was known just as regular Coteaux de Languedoc or Languedoc. But a couple producers there have really kicked it up another notch, and the area, I believe it's getting its own appellation. This area produces, again, kind of cooler but exotic wines, really fabulous. Again, Syrah is in play, as is Grenache and Carignan. There's lots of old vine Carignan there. We'll get a little more to Carignan in a second. I got a great Carignan story to tell you. We'll get to it in a bit. But this Teras de Larac place, some of the hottest producers in the Languedoc are working there. You know, guys like La Pera and Pt. de l'Escalette. And these guys, you know, names that you're going to hear a lot of in the future, are making compelling wines from there already. Some of them are already a bit pricey because it's Teras de Larac has a little cachet like in the geek wine community. So some of these wines are actually getting quite expensive. But you know what? They're worth it. They're really fabulous wines. And then we have the area of Fuger, which is one of the traditional powerhouse areas of the Languedoc, but not too many Fuger wines make it over here for whatever reason. A lot of them are consumed within France. They have a big, chunky, kind of full-bodied, rustic style to them. Powerful, sunny, rich, chewy, ample wines that have a little less of the Garrigue character. Ooh, Garrigue. G-A-R-R-I-G-U-E, Garrigue. This is a very important word when we're talking about Languedoc wines. The Garrigue character, well, it's a bit of what they call the French call terroir, that sense of place. And Garrigue is a very strong sense of place in the Languedoc. Because you see, what grows wild down in the bushlands, you know, in the scrublands of the Languedoc, are all these wild herbs. Lavender, thyme, rosemary, all these things just kind of grow wild everywhere. And their impact is felt on the grapes, maybe because of the resins, because of the oils, we don't know. But there's this strong kind of sweet, savory, herbaceous character that runs into the Languedoc wines that is really, really compelling. Makes for a complex bottle of wine without spending a ton of money. That's the Garrigue, very important character of Languedoc wines that we really love. Now, the Fuger wines have a little less of that Garrigue character, but Fuger's neighbor, St Chinian, can tend to have a lot of it. The St Chinian wines are usually, you know, bathing in this Garrigue character. Really powerful wines. The best ones are Syrah-based. Once again, really intense, powerful, savory, rich, but ripe. They have a lot of fruit. A lot of the St Chinian wines are really dark and inky and robust and really like a joyful, lusty glassful of red wine. There's a groovy sub-region within St Chinian, for you big-time geeks, called Roquebrune. And Roquebrune is kind of like St Chinian on steroids. The volume turned up a little bit. Now, St Chinian's neighbor, Minervois, kind of has the same type of deal. Minervois is a good-sized appellation, and it's the last appellation in Languedoc we hit before we get to Carcassonne. Okay, the famous fortress city of Carcassonne. Absolutely beautiful. And if anyone's ever had a classic cassoulet, you know, the bean stew, it's all over Carcassonne. You walk into town and boom, you get hit with bean stew. But anyway, to have with that bean stew, you can have these Minervois wines. And Minervois actually has a little more Grenache, starts sneaking into Minervois, as well as a little Carignan. A little more Carignan starts finding its way back into the Minervois wines. And in Minervois as well, there's a groovier sub-appellation called La Livinière. And those wines tend to be a cut above the other Minervois wines. It's a more powerful terroir that makes richer, longer aging wines.